we speculated last week that Henry Cavill was probably leaving The Witcher because he wasn't happy with the direction they were taking it. Well, come to find out, that's pretty much exactly why he left. So we were speculating like, okay, he landed Superman again. And like 5 days before he announced he was leaving for season 4, the news came out that the writers of The Witcher on Netflix, many of them openly hate the books and openly hate Andrzej Sapkowski and the games. They detest them. They think they're sexist garbage, things like that. Which, I mean, begs the question, if you hate something, why are you making a TV adaptation of it? But whatever. Turns out, in a very nice and sort of PC and diplomatic way, Henry Cavill explains almost exactly that. What he says was, quote, "The toughest part for me was finding that balance between the showrunner's vision and my love for the books and trying to bring the Geralt to the showrunner's vision. It's about treading a fine line there. It's the showrunner's story, and so it's an adaptation. The tricky bit for me was finding Geralt from the books' place within that and being able to serve both as much as I could. The things that I pushed for, it was not necessarily just more dialogue, it was bringing a more book-accurate Geralt to the screen. Blah, blah, blah. All of my asks and requests were along the lines of just being faithful to the source material. And what isn't said here is what's inferred. And what's inferred, or what can be inferred from this, and what's implied here, is that his asks were not being met. And his priority was being faithful to the source material. So if that's what he wanted, that's all he wanted as the star of the show, and he ended up leaving because they couldn't come to an agreement on this, what does that tell you? Well, the showrunner's version was not faithful to the source material. Like, it's not that complicated. So he decided to back out because the showrunner's vision was not in line with the original content. It was not in line with what I think fans expect from classic Geralt. And it jives with what we've seen from the show so far, where it's weirdly obsessed with covering stuff that has nothing to do with anything. I frankly don't care, like the Frangilla questline, the Frangilla plotline in season 2 had nothing to do with anything, and it literally goes nowhere. No spoilers, I guess, in case you haven't seen it yet. It literally goes nowhere. They spend the entire season covering this one character, and all this political intrigue stuff has nothing to do with Geralt at all. And then, in a show called The Witcher, and then at the end of the season, they do something to just cut it off, and it goes literally nowhere. It was a total waste of time. But it was just their chance to put Frangilla on the screen as like a central character. And it's pain. It's ass. And I mean, it's funny. The show made Geralt a side character, Bloodwolf. Like, that sounds like a joke. It's not really a joke. It's kind of true, because he actually was basically treated like a side character in his own TV show. Geralt didn't appear very frequently. He would show up in the first episode a lot and the last episode a lot. The middle episodes were obsessed with going through this Frangilla storyline that, again, was a total waste of time. Which, again, you just have to ask, if the writers know how this storyline is going to end with a character, that's already a detour and shows a lack of focus. If they know that this is going to be a waste of time, but they still choose to give that character like more screen time than The Witcher in a show called The Witcher, why would they do that? And to me, it's because the priority was never to make the show about Geralt. The show was about making these secondary female cast members the focus of the show, which, again, it kind of makes sense in the context of the story, or in the context of the broader narrative around The Witcher on Netflix, which was that the writers found the original content to be sexist garbage. And as a result, they wanted to flip it on its head and turn it into like an empowerment piece, which I'm totally down for empowerment. I'm totally down for stories with cool female characters. I am all down for that. Love it. But you should not be surprised when Witcher fans are upset that the Witcher show is not about the Witcher. You know, like if you want to do a spin-off, call it the Frangilla show, and it's just a season of nothing but Frangilla talking in a posh British accent about random crap and how she wants to undermine all these people. That's cool. I probably won't watch it, but that's fine. Sophie, even as a woman myself, even I'm a little tired of it when it's done in the wrong way and sacrificing the purpose of the show. I mean, I would agree. I think it does a disservice to stories with actually compelling narratives and empowered female characters when the extent of what you're like providing is just taking like shows about a man and then trying to rework it into being about a girl in a secondary role and promoting her into a lead character role. Like I said before, I think Plague Tale Requiem and Plague Tale Innocence feature a tremendously strong, vulnerable, and inspiring female character. I think they're great. I think with like Forbidden West, Horizon Forbidden West and Horizon Zero Dawn, I find Aloy much less compelling as a protagonist, full stop, much less a female protagonist, not because I hate her, but because they refuse to give her any vulnerabilities. They act like she's Superwoman and she doesn't feel anything. To the extent where in Forbidden West, they literally create a clone of her in the game that feels all of those emotions and feels vulnerable and worried and is anxious about what they're doing. And they just have that clone have all of the emotion. But Aloy is still the resolute one who's like, figure it out, slap yourself out of it, stop being stupid. And that's just not compelling. It's not compelling when a girl does it. It's not compelling when a man does it. It just isn't. Like, it's why the stereotypical Superman thing of I've got everything figured out. I'm Superman and I can do anything whenever I want and doesn't matter. That's a not very interesting character. Whereas Superman, when he is interesting, is when they embrace that he has all the power, but he still has weaknesses. He's got everything, but he's still haunted by these other things. He's not perfect, and that's what makes somebody interesting. Perfection isn't interesting. You're just a robot at that point. It's your weaknesses and vulnerabilities that make you who you are. And the Frangilla thing, again, it just seemed like they were obsessed with not giving her any interesting traits and just, I guess I'm beating a dead horse at this point. It's just frustrating because we wanted the Witcher show. First season, decent. We were interested in it. The plot lines were kind of confusing for people who are not familiar with the story already. So second season, they tried to sort it out. But instead of sorting it out and making the show about Geralt and Ciri, they just double down on the Frangilla stuff and it ends up going nowhere. So we're going to see what happens in the next season, season 3. But I would guess most people will probably be jumping ship, even with season 3. The fact that he announced this at this point is pretty telling. He could have waited and said after season 3 airs later next year, he could have just said then, oh, I'm not returning for season 4. I wish everybody the best. He announced it now, which makes me think that he saw the edits and the cuts for season 3 and was like, this is not what we agreed on. What are you doing? You know? The whole chat is full of dead horses. Beat him. As an Australian, even I can't support Liam Hemsworth as Geralt. Who did I? People are like, oh, we got Riverdale Geralt, which is just funny. It's like, yeah, I mean, kind of. I do feel bad for the guy. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. He just got cast in a role, and now people are like, oh, come on, that guy sucks. And he's like, hey, man, I just showed up. Come on, give me a break. But I mean, it makes sense. People loved Geralt. Loved Henry Cavill as Geralt because he loved the books, because he loved the story, and he wanted to respect the original content. And he's a giga nerd himself. Like this man, this Adonis, sculpted out of marble, he, in his pastime, even though he's a movie star or whatever, he, as a hobby, paints Warhammer figurines. Like, he's a giga nerd. We don't deserve him. And now we see what happens, you know, we flew too close to the sun with him cast as Geralt. But I think he's getting out because he is such a giga nerd. And he's like, you're not going to ruin the show while I'm here. Like, I'm not going to stand for it. And he probably threatened. He was like, hey, if you guys keep doing this, I'm out. You can't do this to the character and expect me to just stand by and go along with it. And they said, oh, well, we're going to do it. Deal with it. We know how much you wanted to play Geralt. So what are you going to do? Quit? It's like, okay. Bye. So, yeah, I mean, this is a big blow for the Witcher series on Netflix. And I think it's probably going to go down the tank. Even if I think they will make a season 4 and the numbers will be in the trash can, especially if it is the case that starting in season 3, they start to really diverge from the plot lines outlined in the books, and it'll probably get canceled. Let's be real. Or who knows? Maybe Netflix will, because they just throw money at random stupid stuff. Maybe they'll just keep paying for it.